Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on which part of the world you are in. Um, Welcome to our open webinar on ISO 42001. We have two special guests, speakers today. Mr. Swami, who is our VP of Audits at Asidia. He has 10 plus years of experience in cybersecurity, governance, and risk and compliance. And Mr. Ashit Dalal, who is our director at Asidia. So what can we expect today? We have a 1-hour session scheduled with 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Questions will be answered through the Q&A box on your left. There are polls at the end too, which you will be required to answer. So I would appreciate if everyone answers those. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Swami.
Very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whichever part of the world you are. Welcoming you to this ISO 42000 awareness presentation. On this day, what we going to cover is that we want to talk about Asidia and also going to talk about the introduction to 42001 2023 standard and what are all the requirements that an organization need to meet to get themselves certified on this standard, and what are all these certification process as a certification body, how we can help you to get yourself organized, your organization, and get certified on this ISO 42000 2023. About Asidia, we are a Colorado-based licensed CPA firm focusing primarily on SOC 123 audit reports, as well as we are focusing on data security, and we are an ISO IEC's accreditation body for both data privacy and data security and business continuity management system. We have an associated office in Mumbai, India. We are listed with Cloud Security Alliance and PCOB USA 13 as auditors. Our team has several years of experience in cybersecurity as well as experience in leading industry certifications. Asidia is one of the few entities worldwide which can provide SOC 2, ISO IEC certifications, VAPT, and cloud security assessments, BAS, and CSOC services under one brand. Our services, line of services are SOC attest reports, ISO IEC certifications, US federal assessments, India 13 assessments, privacy assessments, vulnerability assessment and pen test, cloud security assessments, breach attack simulation, and CSOC services, ESG reporting services, and other cybersecurity services like providing manpower, technical manpower, and other related services. Our CEO, Mr. Ashwin Chaudhary, who has been in this field for more than 22 years, and he is a qualified MBA and also a CPA, and he has been achieved a lot of global certifications in privacy and security, and he has been very much there providing a lot of materials in terms on information security and privacy implementation. He has been part of ISACA chapter Mumbai, and also he has got a lot of experience in conducting cloud security audits, SOC 2 audits, ISO IEC 27001, 27701, 22301, and other standards. Our director, Mr. Ashit Dalal, he has been having more than 25 years of experience in cybersecurity, governance and risk and compliance, ESG assurance services, and he is a qualified DCAM and MBA. He's also got a lot of data security and privacy related certifications, safety related certifications, and emergent ESG related certifications also. His primary area of focus is on information security, cyber security, and ESG areas and safety and security. And also, he has been instrumental in doing a lot of projects in cybersecurity related areas. That's myself. I've been the audit delivery head or VP of audits at SDR. I have around 40 plus years of experience in IT industry and 10 plus years of experience in cybersecurity governance, risk and compliance. I'm a qualified IMCA, a certified ISO 27000K lead auditor and 22301 27701, and also has knowledge on CCSK and SOC related areas. Also concentrate on auditing, privacy and GDPR related engagements.
Swami, your network is not stable. You come in and going out, so you please check your network is okay.
Okay, sir. I will do one thing. I'll just connect with my this thing. 1 second. Just give me a minute.
Am I audible, loud and clear?
Both of you are audible.
Hello?
Yes, you're audible, Mr. Ashir. Sorry for the technical delay.
Yeah. Is it okay now? Am I audible? And am I?
You're audible, but we cannot see you.
1 second.
The internet, you possibly switch off
I will
your.
rejoin. No, I will rejoin the session again. 1 second. Just give me a minute. I will do that. Just give me a minute.
We can see you, Swami.
It's okay. Now, okay, fine. You are able to see the presentation also, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Going to come up. You have a bandwidth issue that you're in on the network side. So. Well,
now,
proper connection there.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Now it is fine, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So next is introduction to ISO 42001:2023. I would ask Mr. Ashik to take over from here.
Yeah. So am I loud and clear? Swami, just switch off your camera so it will be easier for you to get into this. It will not cut your.
Yeah, sure. I will do that. I will cut off my video. No worries. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go back to the previous slide, Swami.
Yeah, I will go back 1 second. Yeah.
Thanks, Swami. Thanks for your good introduction. I think you have some issues at your end, so I don't think so. We need to put on the camera. It's okay. Everyone has seen it. So I'm just going to cover a few areas before Swami takes over and then takes you down into the details of the standard. As you know, my name is Ashid Dalal. You already know my background, which Swami has presented. So I'm just going to kickstart that, and then we'll go into a little bit of at length. I would be there, Swami would present, and then any questions which are there, we can answer possibly at the end of the webinar. So go to the next slide, Swami.
Are you able to see?
And that has come in and taken the world by storm. This particular webinar is going to focus on this standard, and it has been created for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving AIMS or Artificial Intelligence Management System within the organizations. It is basically, as you know, AI and Gen AI has become not even a buzzword anymore, because it has become something what we have seen, what cybersecurity maybe 15, 20 years ago, it's something similar in that path, and I think it's definitely coming up very rapidly. It's designed for those entities or organizations who are utilizing AI-based or you are utilizing or offering AI-based products and services. And also it encompasses those organizations who are involved in development and use of AI systems. So it's a very wide ranging it's a standard with a wide ranging ramifications. And today everywhere we see that AI has become a kind of a game changer. Whether you take sports, whether you take entertainment, whether you take even retail, finance, healthcare, this is becoming a big stuff now. And like any ISO standard, this has nothing to do with the size of the organizations, like from small to very large, or Fortune 100 companies. They basically can implement those. Only thing is that you need to determine the scope as to what would be covered under AI. Like all the other ISO standards, it also follows PDCA. And most important thing is that it is designed to be applicable across various AI applications and the context under which that would be developed. Next slide. So, artificial intelligence management system is basically specified in ISO. It's a set of interrelated or interactive elements for an organization. Also, as we have mentioned, that it is going to cover all the policies and objectives, as well as the processes to achieve those objectives, similar to what we have seen for 27001. And one of the thing is that this particular standard also basically touches what is called as the responsible development provision, or the usage of AI systems. So here takes us to the new concept of what is called as the responsible AI. Next slide. Why it is so important? Because it is the world's first AI management system. Because if you remember, when the first cybersecurity or information security standard came in, which was BS 7799 in 1999, followed by 27001, which had become a global ISO standard, 27001 2005, then 2013 version, and now we have 2022. So before that, there was no cybersecurity management system standard or information security management system standard was there. Same way, AI becoming so popular, I think this standard has been developed very rapidly, and this has become a kind of a first international standard for artificial intelligence management system. It has got its own unique challenges, but because when you are looking at AI, you need to look at ethical considerations, transparency, acceptable usage, bias-related areas, and so on and so forth. And the biggest advantage of this is that, considering all the ethical aspects and everything else, it also gives us an opportunity to manage the risk in a responsible way, which will help you balance innovation with the governance. Next, please. So why would we look at the 42001? The 42001 we are looking at for one simple reason, because it's the first standard which possibly talks about what is called as the responsible AI. And when you say what is responsible AI, responsible AI is basically a set of practices that can enable organizations to unlock AI's transformative potential while holistically addressing inherent risks. So that means you are trying to manage risk with some responsible behavior as far as AI is concerned. And these practices, which when I mentioned the responsible practices, would help companies navigate the risk and also benefits the AI solution in a very consistent, transparent, and accountable manner. So a lot of those things get addressed, because here when you talk about responsible AI, it looks into the ethical aspects, responsible use of AI systems, uh, as also making sure that it helps you manage the risk and similar areas in a very responsible, transparent, consistent, and accountable way. Second is the reputation management, because when you develop a management system standard or a framework, it also enhances trust in the AI application, because it's a management system standard. Like any management system, whether you take quality, safety, environment, or cybersecurity or information security, being supported by the top management, I think that is one of the major considerations, that it instills that trust into the, management of, in this particular case would be AI application. It also addresses the governance aspect because it supports compliance with legal and regulatory standards. All of us know that I think there is a race in the various countries to develop the AI-based legislations. It is coming up in India rapidly. EU has already come out with the AI Act. California is working diligently to come out with those, legislations as it would apply. And second important thing is, because it provides you the framework with specific set of processes, controls, etc. It gives you a framework that can be managed, and it would help you address the artificial intelligence or Gen AI related risk effectively and efficiently. And another important thing would be that because AI, there is a huge disruption of AI and AI-based system, I think it will also help you identify and manage some of those opportunities while providing a backbone of innovation, governance, and so on and so forth. And that is why all holistically, if you see, these are great advantages which this 42001 would offer, starting from responsible AI and the governance. Next slide. Now, there are some of the related standards. I would just make a quick reference because it's not just the AI is one of them, but we have ISO IEC 22989, which establishes actually the terminology for artificial intelligence and all the concepts that are there in the field of AI. Then ISO IEC 23053, it establishes an IA in machine language, because that becomes the foundation of ISO 42000 or any, or for that matter, any artificial intelligence systems, because everything would start with the machine learning. And ISO 23894, which provides the guidance on AI-related risk and management for organizations. Next slide.
This is what
responsible AI, I just covered it at length, so I just talked about it. So let's go to the next slide. So when we talk about the risk management framework, I think one of the things which came out and it is globally now accepted as NIST has come out with what is called as a NIST Artificial Intelligence Risk Management Framework. If you recall, NIST has also come out with similar framework for cybersecurity, which is the risk management framework, and then they developed what is called as a NIST CSF cybersecurity framework that has come out. So something on those lines, they have come out with this, where at the core is your governance model, and then you have mapping, measuring, and the management as the domains, where you have contexts has to be recognized, risk-related contexts are identified. You measure the risk, because identified risk are assessed, analyzed, and tracked, and then you have to manage the risk based on the priority, based on the context that you have, and realizing what could be the impact if it is not managed properly. So it's a typical risk management framework, but NIST is the first one who has put this up as a artificial intelligence related system. And this is something which could be used as the backbone of the management system. And you will see that there is also a mapping between the AI risk management framework and ISO 42001. I don't know whether Swami, but we can share that later if it's possible.
Okay,
Go ahead,
sure.
Swami.
Thank you, Ashit, for your insightful presentation. We will be going to talk about the standard requirements as for ISO IEC 42001:2023. When we were talking about that, as all management system, this management system also follows the PDCA cycle. When plan phase, we will be having class number 4, 5, 6, 7. Class 4 talks about context of the organization. Class 5 talks about leadership. Class 6 talking about planning, and class 7 talking about support. And class 8 is the place where we implement all the planned activities. And in check phase, where we will be monitoring the performance of our management system in terms with metrics and measurements. And also we conduct an internal audit and we conduct a management review meeting. All those things covers as part of this class 9. And also class 10, which is the continually improve the management system. As you know, all management system has followed the similar Annex Excel model. This ISO 42001 also follows the same standard and structure, which will basically, this also will help you to integrate this with other management systems. Basically, that is the advantage that you are having by following this ISO 42001 standard for your AI management systems, right? Now, when we talk about the main structure, as I was explaining, that the class 4 about context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operation, performance evaluation, improvement, and annex controls. See here, one thing we want to understand, that the similarity between ISO 27001 and 42001. When we talk about in ISO 27001 also, we have controls, mandatory controls and annexer controls. When we talk about mandatory controls, any organization who wants to claim their conformance to the standard, they have to ensure that they achieve all the controls implementation what was given in mandatory classes, and any kind of risk that the organization faces, additional controls is required, which they will be referring to this annex controls, and they will be selecting appropriate controls to manage the type of risk that they are going to face based on the context of the organization and other related items. Okay, yeah. Going to the next slide, we will be talking about, as I said, that ISO 27000, similar to ISO 27001, 42001 also has annex controls. It has totally around 38 controls, of which have been divided into 10 categories. If you take into account, it is A2 to A10, which talks about policies related to artificial intelligence management systems and the internal organization, and what are all the resources that are required for implementing or developing the AI systems that we need to take into account, and assessing impacts of AI systems and AI system life cycle. See, generally any system that we develop, we have to have a system life cycle we have to follow. What are all the AI system life cycle that an AI system that we need to develop will follow, that will enable you to have a responsible AI development. Okay? And also data for AI systems. What are all the data that is required for development and use of AI systems also need to be considered. And all information for interested parties. We need to understand who are all the interested parties for this AI management system, what is their expectations, and what are all the things that we need to ensure to meet their requirements. So use of AI systems, how to use the systems. Basically, any use of any system, you should have proper manuals, user manuals, technical manuals, and other things. Those things are being talked about in this paper. And third party and customer relationships also, as similar to other management system in ISO 27001, this is also important. Without third party, there is no system can be developed and things like that. So that is also one of the important control that we need to consider while developing AI management system. Yeah. Now, we will be getting into the details of those mandatory controls. Okay, let us do that. Now, as I was telling, it is 4.1, which is talking about the context of the organization. As like any other management system, we are supposed to ensure that we identify the internal, external issues and climate change related issues. This is one of the important aspects which is being brought into all management systems by ISO. Earlier, we will be used to do it only the internal issues and external issues. Now, climate change issues also becoming one of the important aspects for organization to have sustainability. For that purpose, we need to consider those issues also, which are going to have impact on your AI management system. And those things we need to prepare, identify, and for identifying the external issues, you can follow the PESTEL techniques. And for identifying the internal, you can follow the SWOT techniques also. Yeah, by that you prepare all your internal issues, legal and regulated issues, and climate change related issues. And these are going to be the pillars for you to develop your scope of the organization or scope of the management system for which you want to get yourself certified. So now the second point is that identifying the needs and the expectation of the interested parties. Now, whenever we talk about AI system development, there are different roles available. The roles are AI providers who provides the AI system, the AI users who are using the AI system. Those two people are going to decide whenever any system developed by AI providers what they need to take care of, and what people who are going to use the AI system, they should know what that AI system can offer to them and what kind of risk it can mitigate, and what is that, all that they should know before they select any AI system for their use. So considering that, the understanding needs and expectations and determining the scope of the AI management system, and also various processes that you are having in the organization, how are they linked with this AI management system also need to be defined and developed. And also when we talk about clause 5, which is the important clause where the top management commitment towards implementing AIMS management system is important. And we also need to prepare the AI policy, which is going to give a statement to all the users or all the clients of your system, that how we are going to ensure the implementation of AI management system in a methodical way, systematic way, and how are we going to ensure the continual improvement of it. All that will be talked about in AI policy. And we need to identify who are all the people who are going to implement this AI management system, what are all their roles and responsibilities, and what are all their authorities. All that will be talked about in this 5.3. So now, when we talk about planning, we have to plan for a risk management also. So that plan 6, what are all the actions that we need to talk about in risks? And we have identification of risks, risk assessment, then identifying the risk treatment, then identifying the controls based on the annex controls that we have for ISO 42001. Based on that, we need to prepare the statement of applicability. All that will be coming as part of this. And also, as any management system will undergo changes, we also need to have a formal change management process to be implemented to ensure that the AI management system changes are practically addressed and are tested and implemented. Coming back on to the class 7, which talks about resources for implementing AI management system, we need to identify who are all the resources, what are all the resources required. It's not only people, we need to understand what are all the system resources required, what are all the financial resources required. All that we need to identify and then document them and keep it handy, so that all these people will be responsible for supporting the implementation of AI management system. And also we need to have identify the competence required for people who are going to be involved in implementing the AI management system. And we need to have a process around that, and we need to evaluate their competence. If their competence is not meeting the requirements, then proper training need to be imparted, and all that need to be considered as part of this competence. And another aspect is that awareness part. And also we need to have a communication matrix. Who is going to communicate to whom, when, and what. So that type of communication matrix also need to be maintained with reference to AI management system. As an AI provider, what do you communicate? As a AI user, what is that we need to communicate to the end user? All that need to be decided in the communication matrix. And also you have to have your documented information, which will cover the control of documents and control of records what we need to follow. We need to maintain the version history of those documents and records. All that are being covered as part of 7.5. See, 8.1, what is talking about, that is the do part. Whatever we covered so far from class 4 to 7 is mapped to the planning stage. What we try to do is that we try to plan our issues, we plan our actions, what we need to do, what are the risks that are available, and how are we going to implement all that we are going to plan. Now, the do part, which is coming as part of the operational class 8, which is talking about the operational planning and control, where and also which will have the documented operating procedures and documents, procedures and process there. And also we need to have AA risk assessment implemented. Risk assessment implemented. After the implementation of risk assessment, there will be a report available. And also we need to identify the risk treat as per avoid, transfer, accept, and mitigate. So based on those controls, we need to identify the controls that we need to implement to treat those risks. Assessment. Now, AI system, what are all the impacts that it's going to create to a people or to a group of people or to a society, what it is going to create, all that we need to identify and we have to document them. Based on that, you need to evaluate and get those controls selected. Those selected controls need to be implemented as part of this section, right? And also, once you implement all these controls, it's not enough you just leave it there. We have to monitor their performance. If the performance is not up to our standard and we are not able to meet certain requirements, then we need to come out with a correction, root cause analysis, and corrective action. Based on that, this monitoring and measurement analysis and evaluation section will be talking about. And for this monitoring, we will be doing an internal audit. Also, the internal audit should come out with risk-based assessment, risk-based audit, and also based on the important controls that we need to implement, how those controls are implemented. Internally, the internal auditor will conduct and then give a report. Based on the findings you come in the internal audit, that needs to be addressed and need to be fixed using your corrective action, and root cause analysis. And also, after conducting the internal audit, there has to be a governance meeting held on a periodical manner with the management to show the performance of the AI management system. That is where the management review process is going to help an organization and management also. See, this is the place where you will be also try to get the management approval for some of the risks which are not able to close it, which are accepted, knowingly we accepted, and we those accept residual risks which we are accepting it, that needs to get approved by the management. So for those things, and also they need to be talked about the performance of the measurements and metrics and measurements. They have to talk about what are all the action items identified on the previous meeting that has to be addressed. All that need to be considered as part of this management review process. And also, as part of the section 10, we have to come out based on the actions identified. We will be coming out with the continual improvement project or process, which will make sure to ensure that the AI management system meets the relevant requirements for you, right, for the organization. Now, the next one is the non-conformity and corrective action. So this is the act part. What, as we were telling, that the plan part is starting from class 4 to 7, and class 8 is the do part, and class 9 is about the check part, and the class 10 is the improvement part. That is the act part. Based on the evaluations you did in class 9, you will be coming out with your correction and corrective action and all that aspects. Yeah, these are all the things that the organization need to ensure that all these controls are implemented to make sure to claim confirmation to the standard of ISO 42001. Now, as we know that the ISO 42001 has got two type of controls, mandatory and annex controls. We will be talking about the annex controls in detail now, and this will be about we were talking about policies related to AA, the AA policy, and then this policy should be aligned with other policies of the organizations, and all these policies and documents need to be reviewed at periodical intervals. So these controls are important control where you cannot say these controls are not applicable. Even though it is an annex control, these controls are going to help you. And in ISO 42001, Annexure B talks about how you implement these annex controls. They are given an implementation guidelines, like how in ISO 27001 you have a standard called ISO 27002, which talks about the implementation guidance. This also gives ISO 42001 also gives a section called Annexure B, which provides you the implementation guidance. So whatever controls you want to implement, how to implement, what are all the important aspects that you have to take into account, all that have been given in that Annexure B. You can refer that standard and then you can start implementing it, right? So for any implementation of controls, you have to have topic specific policies and procedures, and you also need to have a process to implement them, and you have to have a method of measuring that implementation and coming out with your improvement aspect. So for each and every control implementation, a PDCA cycle need to be followed. Then only you will be able to ensure the implementation is successful in all levels, at all levels of the organization. Now, as we were talking about policies for related to AA, and the second part is that it's talking about the roles and responsibilities and reporting of concerns. So people should know any kind of issue that they face, any kind of incident that they want to report with reference to AA management system, how to report, they have to communicate. This also need to be part of your documentations, and part of this, and those documentation need to be made available to individual, to all stakeholders who are involved in the implementation and who are going to use the AA management system. So all relevant stakeholders need to be communicated how to report a concern, all that, right? Now, resource documentation. As we were talking about, what are all the resources that are required for implementing AA management system? The system resources, the tool resources, the data resources, the system and computing resources. What are all the human resources required? What are all their competence? What are all the competence required for a person to be there as part of the AA management system team? All that need to be identified, documented, and implemented to meet the requirements of A.4 control. And A.5 is talking about the system impact assessment process. And also we need to document the AA system impact assessments with reference to individuals, with reference to group of individuals, with reference to the societal impacts, what an AA system could offer. That also need to be documented, identified, and documented. So this A.5 is going to be one of the important aspects which we need to consider while developing an AA management system to be responsible AA. So for that, we need to include this. And A.6, which talks about objectives of responsible development of AA system and processes for responsible AA system design and development, and AA system requirements and specification, and documentation of AA system design and development, AA system verification and validation. See, basically, it is similar to what we follow a system lifecycle management, right? The same AA system lifecycle management has got all these controls, which are important to be followed by the organization who are there, whether as an AA provider or a AA user. Right? And then A.7, which talks about the data required for implementing the AA management system, how you are going to get the data, what is the quality of data, because that is going to play a vital role for the output of the AA system to the user. If your data is not quality and it is not having errors, then the results that are going to come out of your system also going to be erroneous. So we need to consider all those aspects of it, and then we can go forward. Now talk about data provenance and data preparation, and also system documentation is important. We will be also talk about external reporting, communication of incidents, and information for interested parties, and processes for responsible use of AI systems, objectives for responsible use of AI systems, intended use of AI systems. All that need to be considered. Now, coming back to the part where the third party requirements are identified, we have to allocate responsibilities for each and every third parties. Even when you develop AI management system, you may take some portion of the system from outsiders, right, from third parties. So you have to ensure that that third party system what you are going to use for your AI development is also meeting the requirements of ISO 42001. So for that we need to identify all that, and we need to do that. And we also need to identify suppliers are meeting the requirements, and customers are going to use it, and they are going to give you feedback on that usage of the system. So these are all the annex controls that an organization need to make sure that they are implementing those controls based on the risks they identified as part of their planning process, and they prepare the statement of applicability, and the statement of applicability should be prepared with reference to each 38 controls, which are applicable, which are not applicable, with valid justification. So those things are going to be important, because these statement of applicability will be documented as part of your certificate also based on the IEC. Now, next part is that on what are all the documents that are required for this. I have given this. I don't want to go in deep on this. As you all know, what are all the manuals and other things is to be done is being given here in this slide. Okay, and also related to annex controls, what are all the documents that are required, we have given here. And now the next important aspect is that how a certification process will go for. We get into that. First of all, an organization who wants to get themselves certified on ISO 42001, they can approach us and they can send a mail, and we will be giving you a scoping sheet. Based on the scoping sheet, we will come out with an agreement, and then we will be conducting a stage 1 audit. The stage 1 audit will be, for ensuring the requirements met, or the importance of the documents are met, and also you have completed your internal audit and management review meeting and all that. So we will conduct the stage 1 audit, which is primarily a documentation review, which will not be, though we may be looking at some simple implementations and things like that, but still it's primarily documentation requirements, whether it is meeting the requirements of the standard or not. Once it's met, then we will plan for the stage 2 audit, where we will be looking at the implementation of your controls, identification of your risks, what is the controls you have identified to mitigate the controls, what is your treatment process, whether all the risks that are identified and treatments have been approved by the risk owner or not, and it has been all the residual risks are accepted or not. All that will be done, and once that done, and then we will be giving you findings. Based on the findings, you are supposed to come out with your correction and corrective action and root cause analysis. And once we are satisfied with that, then we will be issuing a certificate. The certificate issued will be valid for 3 years, and each year we will be conducting a surveillance audit to make sure that you are continuously implementing the controls required for meeting the requirements of ISO 42001 standard requirements. So this is how we will be supporting you in order to get your organization certified for this ISO 42001 2023. With this, I completed my presentation, and I now hand over to Madhuja. Ashit, anything you want to add?
No, this is fine. There were some questions that came up in the chat, and I answered all of them. If anyone has a question, it's a good one. So we are here to answer any questions there on it.
So thank you for the presentation. I am starting the polls as well. So we can get the questions answered. There are like 3 questions, I think, at this
Only
point.
thing I would add, Swami and Madhuja, before you start the poll,
Right.
especially the companies who are going for the first time for this AIMS 42001 certification, though it is not mandatory, but we strongly recommend that you get at least the gap assessment or the pre-assessment done before you go for stage 1. It's highly recommended, like 24 players for 27001, because it's a very new standard. People have, people still struggle to implement that. The entire concept is fairly new, and there are very many unknowns. So my suggestion to you is that it would be a good idea to go for a gap assessment, which will take maybe 2 or 3 days, depending on the size of the company. But it is worth its while in terms of investment, because that way your journey to stage 1 and stage 2 would be much smoother. Because I have seen companies, especially if I take example of 27001, many companies, they struggled a lot initially when they directly went for stage 1. Now, in my own case, I have, as a lead auditor, I've converted at least in 10 cases, stage 1 was converted to the gap assessment because they had so many issues. It was not implemented properly, the documentation was not proper, risk was not identified. And in this case, AIMS, which is basically with so many unknowns there, it would be difficult for companies straight away to go for stage 1 and stage 2. So it's a recommendation, though not mandated to have a gap assessment. Okay.
Somebody asked, is it possible to share the presentation? We usually put in the webinar as a video on the
Recording.
recording. So that would be a good place to see once you're done with it. Yeah. So if we don't have any more questions, and if there are
I
no
think
more,
just check in Q&A. Because I think I've answered all of them. So there were a few questions from Abhishek Yadav, and I haven't answered all of them. So
right. I don't see any new ones. If a company is not having ISO 27001, can they go for 42001? Is that something you would want to answer? If the company is not having ISO 27001 certification, can they go for a 42001 certification?
yes, they can. There is no problem. It is not mandated that they have to have 27001. More than 27, I would rather more worried for 9001, because 9001 addresses many of those aspects than 27. Cyber risk and data privacy risk is important and critical, but there are a lot of other operational areas which can get streamlined through 9001 management system. So there nothing in neither 9000 nor 27000 are mandated. But if you have a management system framework, it is easy to piggyback on that. So for example, because if you see they are all Unix SL format, so section 4 to section 10 are very similar to each other. So yes, it would help, but it is not necessarily that it is required to have 27001 in place to go for 42001. Does that answer your question? Hello.
Are there any additional resources that complement ISO 42001? There's another question now.
Well, additional resources mainly, I think this question is a little unclear. Additional resources means obviously you need to have the management commitment, top management commitment. Uh, Train resources on AI. I would not much worried about the ISO management system, but AI, you need the domain expertise, the people who have worked on those areas, or who are data scientists, and the people with data management or the data governance background would be your biggest asset. So people with that kind of background would be definitely good help. Those are technical experts, I call them. People who have similar background uh, in that area would help. Another thing would be specifically if an organization, see, this is also, AI is also becoming quite industry specific. So if you're looking at the healthcare, so if I need to involve someone who has got the medical background, or someone who has the domain expertise would be of help. I am helping a company which is basically a chemical company, and they want to get AI into managing some of their process safety and sustainability and other areas. So, being a chemical engineer, I can help them very clearly that where those AI systems can be deployed. Now, there would be experts who would basically, I'm saying when I said that domain expertise means the knowledge of the industry. So those are the things which would be helpful. Obviously, you would need your programming, resources who are very good in machine learning, Python, and so on and so forth, or very good capabilities in generative AI and those kind of systems. But yes, depending on the industry, if you have a resource or a technical expert who comes with that domain knowledge, that would substantially help.
All
Does
right.
that an-
Sorry, go ahead.
No, does that answer? So I hope that answers all the questions. Or you have anything
Yeah,
else?
I think so. I think so. So if there are no more questions now, maybe
IAF confirmed the ISMS is not required for AIM certification.
No, that's what I answered. I said, Swami, that yes, you don't need ISMS. It's not a mandatory requirement to have 42,001. You can
What they
align or
are
you can
asking,
integrate. You can integrate them, but there is no requirement to have 27,001 certification to go for 42,000. Okay.
so if there are no more questions and we want to conclude the session, is that something we would want to give back the time to everyone around who's watching our webinar right now?
I think there is a.
Okay. So
You've taken the poll already.
yeah, we've taken the polls already.
All right. So if there are no questions, I think thank you everyone. Thanks for joining in this evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. And thanks Swami and Madhuja for all your help and support. So hope this was useful. This was just a little bit of an effort from our side to just touch the surface of this very wide subject. It's an ocean by itself, and many of them experts, I see them on there, like Madhav and all are already there. So, but I thought that we would share some of those ideas that we have.
Thank you, Ashit, for your time as well as your inputs for this presentation. Thank you so much, and thank you very much for all of you for joining this session.
And
With
one
this,
thing I just want to clear before you conclude, I think there was a question from Abhishek that by implementing 42,001, can you meet EU AI Act or any other compliance legislation requirements? Answer to that is no. It's like GDPR. If you have 27701, can you meet GDPR and compliance automatically? Never, never in the world that would help. It
it may
that
support.
would work
It
that
may
way.
support
It will
them.
help you. It will
Yeah.
help you. It will give you a framework, but it does not mean automatic compliance. Compliance is compliance. Whether you have 42,001 or you have 9,000 or 27,001, it doesn't matter. Okay, but it definitely helps because you have a management system and processes in place, so it helps you navigate through some of those tough compliance requirements little easily. But you still need to comply. Okay.
One more thing is that on this one. Standard is what cost. Basically, this all depends on the scope of the certification and other things. So it may not be able to give us anything right now. Once you give us requirements, we will able to come back with you the standard cost and other aspects of it. Yeah, that should be. That's the answer from our side for this course. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. We hope you enjoy your rest of the day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Madhuja. Thank you, Swami. You guys have
Yeah,
a nice
thank you,
day.
sir.
Take care.
Yeah,
Have a
present
good
you,
one.
sir. Thank you.